Hey, good people. A day late and a dollar short. So the theme of this week's video newsletter is called Raw Grace and the Power of Inconsistency. So much for a Wednesday timed newsletter. Bear with me as I transition into this video business. So I just want to acknowledge how really weird this fall has been. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing just really wild, energetic shifts in their world right now, but as for me, I'm not sleeping very much, maybe 3 or 4 hours a night. This transition into fall, my body has felt as if it's gained 15 more pounds. I just feel incredibly heavy. My body's not as limber. My entity awareness is off the charts, just burping constantly, lots of weird sensations in my body, lots of energetic weirdnesses happening. And then finally, just recently, this week in particular, there was a handful of tough conversations with people, with family, with friends, with children. And so, yeah. Raw grace. So that's all pretty raw stuff. And then as far as grace goes, how do we meet it all, right? For me particularly, just a lot of acceptance. You send the newsletter out late on a Thursday. You miss your therapy session when you've been going for more than 6 months quite regularly, and you just happen to flake out. You have those tough conversations with family, friends, and children, and particularly important is to have those conversations when you are carrying the weight of something that didn't feel so great in the receiving of it. So it's important to go back. And an old therapist I used to go to, she called that circling back. So circle back and have that conversation. Allow your kids to lead. Do you have to control everything? Do you have to control everything for your kids? Perhaps they are wise and know what's good for them. And then as far as the sleep goes, just accepting you're in a season of change, and maybe you don't have to fight the lack of rest and sleep. And if you can build in some rest during the day, try that. But otherwise, carry on and do the best you can. And then as far as entity awareness goes and burping, I know a lot of you aren't going to be able to relate to that. That's okay. Some of you will. And if that's something that you deal with, that's another area of acceptance. I'll talk more in the future about how your personal power plays into all of that. Power's elusive to a lot of us. And then finally, the grace part, right? How are we cultivating grace in a season of change, in a season of heaviness, of busyness? So for me personally, I got to enjoy Marge's company on Sunday. We had breakfast together like we do most every Sunday morning, and we watched the attendees of the New York City Marathon head up to Lafayette Avenue. So we were waving and being really silly. From the window. You go hiking with friends. I have the most amazing group of women that I am able to lean into and enjoy their friendship and their camaraderie. And so that's can we all just thank our friends for being there for us? That's a huge part of it for me, is expressing my gratitude for those folks that show up for me. I get my bars run a lot, every week, at least, preferably more. And for me, I'm also in the middle of packing to go on a silent retreat, which I'll be on for just the next few days over the weekend, which I booked this about 6 months ago. It still feels a bit tentative. I'm not quite sure why it feels tentative, but maybe that'll be the subject of next week's newsletter. And then finally, as far as grace goes, I go back to my Instagram account and I watch a video of Marge singing Amazing Grace. She got an enormous gift from a friend of hers recently. We have a prayer list that we work on of folks that, are suffering any measure of ill health. Some are friends, some are acquaintances, some are strangers to us that have been referred. And so she and I work on them, and a good friend of hers that she's known for many years just passed away. And in relaying, her name is Mary Helen, and relaying the story to me, Marge described how Mary Helen gave her an enormous gift in the weeks leading up to her departure. She found a level of joy and acceptance with her impending death. And a lot of that had to do with her ability to spend time with her kids, who all came in to take care of her in the weeks and months leading up to her eventual departure. And Marge just made a wonderful perspective, gave me a wonderful perspective on it, in that, instead of meeting death with anxiety, which is how we are conditioned to perceive death in this reality system, we actually have the choice to meet it with grace, even with joy. Can we welcome it? That's big. So I'm sitting with all this, and it's big, and it's not always heavy, but it's big stuff. So I'll leave you with that. Sorry I was late this week. I'm absolutely certain I'll be late again. Just trying to keep you on your toes. All right, good folks. Love ya. See you next week.